pase, pierna derecha, directo al arco, ¡golazo! ¡Golazo! ¡Golazo!
The world of football with a soccer perspective. This is Soccer Today with Duane, Rollins and Kevin Laramee, live on the Sports Podcasting Network.
Good day, good night, and welcome to Soccer Today for Wednesday, February 20th, 2019. Ouch. Eee. Ow. 4-0, Duane. 4-0.
So I didn't dream that?
It was not a dream. It was maybe a nightmare, but Toronto FC lost the first leg of their round of 16 in the CONCACAF Champions League 4-0 in Panama versus Club Atlético Independiente, better known as CAI. Yeah, CAI got the upper hand in the first round.
Look, no one can make any excuses for what happened last night from a Toronto FC perspective. It was a pathetic performance. I don't quite understand. I don't quite know how to evaluate this. A lot of people that are listening to this might suggest that I'm just some kind of blind, naive supporter of TFC that believes in the impossible. But I look at the talent of that team and I compare it to other teams in MLS, and I swear to God that they are more talented than most. But you cannot argue with what happened last night. Last night was an embarrassment. I have watched Toronto FC for 13 seasons. That was the start of the 13th season. So 12 seasons in a day. I cannot remember a result that was more embarrassing than that one. I mean, yeah, there have been terrible results for this team over the years, for sure. I mean, they lost, 6-1 to Montreal, famously in Montreal circles, right? But in terms of expectation versus end result, last night losing 4-0 to a team that was in the second division in Panama 2 years ago when they were winning MLS Cup. Come on, man. That was not okay. And I don't know what the answer is, Kevin. I don't have I answered this, and I can't, but that said, I can't change my underlying opinion that the team talent-wise is fine, and they just, I don't know. I just don't know. I mean, I don't have answers for it. I'm sorry. I wish I did.
You don't need to have all the answers. That's okay. We're just going to ask the questions, and someone will answer us eventually. That's what I feel for Toronto FC fans. Yesterday was interesting. For non-TFC fans, yesterday was kind of interesting to watch too. And the unraveling of TFC, the bad game Bono had. Bono had a few bad games over the last 12 months. This was one of those, and it's like Bono, oh no, more than Bono. But yeah, when I was watching this game yesterday, you know what was ringing in my head? It was a question that I asked David Segata on Monday, Duane. When you have players playing for a club like CAI for Panama, are they feeling that this game could be like a stepping stone or a big moment for the bright lights to shine on their performance? Well, I guess the answer is yes, because they took advantage of those bright lights and played really well. Oscar Brown had a terrific second half. Aguilar, amazing first half. So David was on to something Monday.
No, for sure. And I mean, full power to them. I mean, they did what they had to do. No one is even remotely taking away from what CAI did. They absolutely deserved the win. Based on the play. I mean, I'd like to say that this was completely against the flow or something, but it wasn't. I mean, Toronto had its chances early, and they should have scored the penalty.
We'll get there. We're going to get to Boyd in a second.
But, other than that, CAI sat back and countered really effectively. And no one can take a lot of joy out of the way that they were able to slice open the back line. Because last year, if we look objectively back on last year, forget the injuries for a second and just look at what TFC's problem was last year, it was that they couldn't defend. And there was nothing yesterday that suggests that they fixed that. Simone did not stand out. He looked old, right? He looked old.
He did stand out, but not in a good way. He did stand out in the same way that I've seen when he was with LAFC last year, especially that game against Montreal in Montreal. He looked the exact same way. When once or twice in his last time with Montreal, his last couple of games with Montreal looked the same. He looked the exact same for Dijon. So if you are actually a listener to Soccer Today and you heard me talk about Simon before, and you heard Matt Doyle talk on Twitter yesterday, and you saw him play in Dijon, you kind of had a feeling this was coming. He still has a lot of great games in him, I'm sure of that. But when you look at day in, day out performances, every single day performances, it's not going to be that easy for Laurent Simon.
No, and look, this is what I'll say to this. A lot of people here today want to hang the new management. They want to walk to BMO or to Belgium, wherever the hell Ali Curtis is, and with fire in their hands and to burn him at the stake. They do. But what has he done? Like, this is my message to TFC fans. Maybe this team is bad. Maybe they've waited too long and they are going to have a terrible year. That's possible. Absolutely. And I've never said it's not possible. All I've said is when I look at the talent and I look at the history of the players that are involved, I think that they have the potential of going either way. I think I've been consistent on that they could be MLS Cup contenders or they could be wooden spoon contenders. It might not be in the middle. You know what I mean? But if you look at this team as it's constructed, this is not Ali Curtis's team yet. This is still Bezbatchenko's team.
Yeah.
He was the one who signed Simon. He was the one who brought Boyd in. He was the one that did everything except for let the two players that demanded to go. So if you're a TFC fan that wants to burn everything down right now, first off, thank you for buying season tickets in 2017. That was good of you to join the bandwagon, honestly. But other than that, like, what do you expect? I mean, they forced these moves. I don't think if Javenko was there, does this result change? Yeah, he probably maybe he scores the penalty. Maybe.
Oh yeah,
he missed a lot of penalties too in his career. But other than that, this result doesn't change with Javenko there.
You know what would change though? People's attitude versus this game, and I guess hope would have been there a bit more. Like after the second goal, if you look at the physical reaction of players from TFC, like their facial expressions, their mannerism, they were defeated after the second goal. And then it was just piling on. When that second half, it was 1-0 after the first half. And that was okay. Terrence Boyd, of course, missed a penalty. I think the ball is still floating somewhere in the upper atmosphere as we speak. I think I just saw it pass the International Space Station this morning. It said hi to the Canadian astronaut that's there. But that was Terrence Boyd's shot. It literally... and you know what's interesting too? Well, let's get to the penalty for a second here. Yes, the shot was bad. Okay, but first of all, you're TFC. You're getting a penalty for you. Everyone looks at each other. Who's gonna take it? No Josie, no Seba, no Victor Vasquez, which were the three big penalty takers up until now. Michael Bradley, when you ask Michael Bradley to take a penalty, he remembers the last one that he missed. That was the exact same thing, the Terrence Boyd. So, and then no one else in the squad last night had ever hit a penalty for TFC. So everyone's looking at each other like, oh, okay, so what do we do? And you have the new striker who hasn't hit a penalty for the last two clubs. It's been years since Terrence Boyd actually took a penalty, but he's like, I'm the new striker. I come here. Why not? I'm going to step up. I'm going to bury it, and I'm going to start my... Oh, man, I just skied it, and it's out of the stadium. I think it just landed somewhere in Venezuela.
It was truly a bad take. I mean, look, I think Terrence Boyd's going to be a decent signing for this club. I truly do. I think that he is a player that, through the misfortune of when he was signed, is going to be a target for some players. But in terms of his overall production, I think he's going to get 8 to 10 goals this year and is going to be a perfectly acceptable signing. But that was a really bad penalty. I mean, Kevin, what I was upset about at that moment wasn't that Boyd missed it. Well, that was upsetting. But that was Osorio didn't take it.
Well, he thought about
Osorio was TFC's best player last year. Why didn't he step up and take that penalty?
Well,
because to me, that's who I would have preferred to see on there.
It's all about walking on eggshells. You want to take it. He did raise his hands if you look at the replay, and he put the ball there. But then he sees his new striker stepping up and taking it. He's like, okay, I'm not going to give shit to the new striker. I'm just going to let him hit it, let him have a good first game with the club. I'm going to let him open his account, as we say, score his first goal for the club. But it didn't happen. I guess it's all those little things. Like, Osorio probably wanted to take it, but he's like, I'm gonna let Boyd take it. Welcome him the proper way for a striker. Give him that penalty. But it wasn't meant to be, I guess. And Osorio probably is ruining himself from not taking it last night. But it wouldn't change anything because when they came back for the second half, the 2 quick goals changed the entire complexity of this game. And then Toronto were truly behind the 8 ball, and the 4th goal could be very, very...
well, there's no good about it. The 4th goal killed the tie.
Killed the tie, but there's hope, though. Not for me. I'm not a Toronto fan. I'm a Toronto observer because the second team I talk about the most after the Impact, for sure. But Duane, what's the predicted weather for Toronto next Tuesday? I know you're really up on your weather network. It's going to be about -15 and possibility of a blizzard in Toronto for the second leg. And the Panama players of Kai, I don't think they've seen snow before. Never mind played in it.
-17 was the last I saw.
So there's a possibility that
in the stands. Like that's...
Yeah, but there's a possibility that like Kai has a terrible road game next week, but it's just to leave hope out there for fans.
Well, you're right. There is. I mean, is TFC going to win by 5 goals? I mean, it's 5 goals outright. Like,
can they score?
That seems a little bit much.
Yeah.
I guess they could win 4-0 and win the tie. But look, this is all the things you just said. As much as we want to say that was a completely crappy performance and it doesn't matter if Jinko was there, it wouldn't have mattered, blah, 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 blah. But had they scored a goal, it would matter. Had they scored, not allowed the 4th. And can we talk about Alex Bono when we're done here? Had we not allowed the 4th?
I know you.
They not allowed the 4th.
It's your favorite goalkeeper, so we can talk about him for sure.
Yeah, all that matters. If it's 3-1 going into the second leg, then everyone's okay, well, that sucked, but a 2-0 win takes them through, right? Now, they got to win by 4 to have a chance. It's ridiculous. Like, it doesn't seem likely, and they can't allow a single goal. But, yeah, let's talk about Alex Bono. I really would like to talk about Alex Bono.
I know you do. You've probably been biting your tongue since last. I'd be like, that Bono! What do Greg Vanney and Ali Curtis, I guess by association, what do they see in him? I'm not going to lie to you. I'm the same camp as you have. Ever since Bono was battling Q Roberts for TFC 2-time back about 3 years and a half ago, I thought Q was better. And for some reason, Bono, because he can play a bit with his feet, I guess, was the very highly touted prospect. And he took Clint Irwin's job 2 years ago when Clint went down injured and Bono never looked back. But I'm not convinced still about Alex Bono, and performances like last night are the reason why I'm not convinced.
He's a good shot stopper. And they're blinded by his athleticism. I've talked to a lot of people with Alex Bono because, as you well know, I've been pretty consistent in my doubts about Alex Bono as an elite goalkeeper for years now. And I'm not trying to bash the guy. There's nothing personal about this. I just don't think he's an elite goaltender. I think he should be, or Clint Irwin should have had the job. He should still be here, in my opinion. I mean, Q, yeah, there was probably a little passport coming out there when I was defending him over Bono, for sure. I absolutely would have rather them give the Canadian kid a chance than the American kid, and sue me for that. But regardless, when I look at Bono's performances and I compare him today, Kevin, I'm going to give you a name, and this is who I think Alex Bono is. Okay. I think he's Joe Hart. He's the American Joe Hart.
Interesting. Because Joe Hart played 10 years for City. It was a good keeper, but
he was okay for sure, and he made some spectacular saves. And Alex Bono can make spectacular saves. But at the elite level, stopping the ball, this sounds ridiculous. This sounds counterintuitive, what I'm about to say. But at the elite level, stopping the ball is the least important thing a keeper can do. Everyone at the elite level can stop the ball, can dive, can get in the top corner and get their hand on a ball occasionally. Everyone. What makes an elite keeper is decision-making, is organization, is the ability to anticipate the play and to not have to make spectacular saves. Alex Bono has never demonstrated that to me. He, just like Joe Hart never did. And look, I loved Joe Hart. I did, because I am a blind City fan. But when he left and Emerson came in, the difference is night and day in terms of the abilities out there. Emerson doesn't have to make spectacular saves because he isn't chasing butterflies in his crease with, because he forgot to take his Ritalin. And that's the difference.
I just see Joe Hart swapping. Oh, wait, there's a ball coming. Jeez, I gotta jump. Man, I almost had that Monarch, but geez, I missed that shot, and now it's 1-0 for the other team. No, yeah, what do you want to do at this point? It's Bono's Toronto's goalkeeper, for better or for worse, I guess, and it's going to be worse.
Well, yesterday a report came out that and I don't have the internet in front of me right now, but TFC was linked to an American keeper who's playing in France right now. So I'm going to suggest that he was 32. He's kind of a journeyman guy, but I'm going to suggest that maybe TFC is starting to recognize this as well. They fell in love with Alex Bono, and like I said, I've talked to a lot of people about him, and they all said the same thing, that in training he's spectacular. Because he does things in training that a lot of us that aren't incredibly athletic can't do. And they look at that and their jaw opens. But training does not emulate the game. And if you look at Alex Bono's history with TFC over the past couple of years, and yes, he's had some great games. You can make the argument that he did some things in the Columbus series that allowed TFC to win that series on the run to the MLS Cup. Absolutely. Just like Joe Hart did some things for City over the years that allowed them to win games. But if you take that and then you compare it to the amount of times he has screwed up, and you can directly say that's his fault, that's a goal that shouldn't have gone in, they went in because the keeper wasn't doing his job right, it doesn't compute. It's not the same thing. Joe Hart. Joe Hart is not a TFC player. Alex Bono is, though. And the reason TFC lost the CCL final last year is because he couldn't catch a damn floater from the corner. Like, I can't get past that in my mind. That was him at the top level. Yeah, they won MLS Cup with him in goal, but Seattle didn't get a shot in goal. So what was he really doing that night? That was the rest of the team winning that game. TFC's won in spite of Alex Bono. They need to upgrade there, 100%. If I wasn't convinced before, I am absolutely going to make a banner now that he needs to be the backup.
Yeah, well, you're not going to have any arguments from my side here. I kind of have to agree with you because, games like last night. Let's quickly touch on the other two games in the CONCACAF Champions League before we quickly touch about the goalless games in the UEFA Champions League yesterday too. The surprising result last night, Duane, was Deportivo Saprissa from Costa Rica at home versus the big club from Mexico, Tigres UNL. Tigres, the team from Monterrey, not the Monterrey team, the team from Monterrey, but that's called Tigres. Well, Deportivo Saprissa won at home, and who scored the winning goal for Saprissa? Former Major League Soccer player, former Montreal Impact player, former Minnesota United player, Juan Venegas was able to score a goal. This kid scores goal at the World Cup, plays amazingly. When he plays for his country of Costa Rica, he looked like a world beater. Played for Montreal, didn't do squat. Played for Minnesota, didn't do jack you know what. But when he plays in Costa Rica, for some reason, he's messy. And Juan Venegas made the difference last night. Deportivo Saprissa won. Tigres, nothing.
Tigres is funny in this competition. I think they're the best team in the region. I like that Tigres team. I've seen them play a lot. I've seen them in person play a lot. I've watched a few games here and there online because I really enjoy watching them, to be honest. But they can't seem to get it done when it matters. They, just in the Mexican League and in CCL, this has all been a problem. Now that said, I'm not betting against them at home, and Saprissa is a good team. They are the best team consistently, the best club in North America that's not in Mexico or in MLS. I don't think there's an argument to that. Over the last 20 years, for sure, Saprissa has been the other team in the region that you can't sleep on. So good for them to get that. But that said, you just mentioned a MLS sort of fringe player that started for them, and that kind of tells you where their overall talent level is. But here's the thing about those teams in Central America, and I've watched a lot of the CCL over the years. No, they're not as talented as MLS teams, but they are more consistent in terms of and stable than MLS teams. They have the same players, the same group that stays together for many, many years, and they have that familiarity. That's an advantage in this competition, particularly in the first round of the CCL when teams in MLS aren't really ready to play. So I wouldn't sleep on Saprissa, but at the same time, Tigres probably has enough talent to get the job done at home.
Oh, yeah, like Gignac or something is going to make the difference next week in the return leg, probably. But it's still a result all on its own. And Saprissa got a great victory against a big club. And it builds confidence for the second leg. And the other result...
It reminds me, Kevin, when the Impact beat America in the first leg, right?
Yeah, but the second leg... Well, they drew the first leg with the 89th minute goal that almost cost me my life. At the Estadio Azteca. I'm there. I'm packing my bag, packing my laptop, putting it in my bag because the press box is about a 10-minute walk from the press conference room. So we were told about 10 minutes before the end of the game, you should start heading to the press conference room. Otherwise, you won't be there in time. So packing my stuff, putting my laptop in my backpack, and getting my pen and my phone, and then Club America scores, so I had to duck for my life because there was a wave of beer literally coming out the press box. Like, oh my, duck and cover. But that was a tying goal. It was a 1-1 on that night. But yeah, it's a bit the same. The second leg, Tigres is gonna be at home, gonna open up its offense. It's gonna finish 3-0, and it's gonna be Tigres moving on probably. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, look, I mean, I like that Tigres team a lot. They are my favorite team in this competition for sure. But you can't ignore the fact that they in the MXC playoffs in CCL they haven't got the job done when it matters sometimes. So that is something to worry about. But I wouldn't stress too much about a Mexican team losing the first leg on the road because they kind of play this competition that way.
You cannot handicap a Mexican team until the second leg and 30 minutes to go. Until that point, it's still fair game. They can come back from 2-3 goals down. We've seen it happen many times in this competition.
Well, I remember Santos Laguna
exactly
against TFC in 2013, I want to say.
2012 or 2013, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, back then when TFC had a great first leg and everyone's like, hey, we have a chance here. They go to the final, and then, no. Wait for the second leg. You're right.
Yeah, it's called being Santos Lagooned. It happened to Montreal in 2009.
Well, I remember that. What was that, 2008?
That was 2009 at that point. It was February or March 2009 at the Olympic Stadium. It was 2-0 Montreal. And then 4 goals. No. Santos Laguna leaving with the trophy. Bye-bye.
I watched that game, Kevin, with a bunch of TFC fans at the Football Factory. At the time, the Football Factory was a sponsor of It's Called Football. So we went to the Football Factory to watch that, and the TFC fans were split. Some of them were actually cheering for Montreal. That may shock you, but I remember we were all just laughing and laughing when that went in because if you weren't a Montreal fan, you could not just be like, oh, okay, this is the difference. There it is.
Yeah, you were like, oh my, I did not expect that. I did not anticipate that ending. Where is the corner where I can roll up and cry in? Because I need to go there now. That's pretty much how TFC fans felt last night.
Oh, well, it just got really quiet where I watched it with a lot of TFC fans, and the second half was just like, I mean, honestly, to get back to that game, there comes a point in a game like that, and as an Impact fan, you understand that. I'm sure the Whitecaps fans understand that as well. Every other team that's listening to us out there, you probably have had a game similar where there comes a point where you go, I don't know what the hell's happening. Like, there's nothing we can do about this. We want this to be different, but this is ugly. And it was ugly last night. It was absolutely ugly. And those players should hang their damn head. I'm sorry. That was not an okay result. Like, the way that you put this, and now suddenly that Las Vegas game, not to go back there, and I don't really want to put too much stock in this, but suddenly that Las Vegas game starts to look like maybe that was a hint. Like, what the hell is happening? The talent's fine. It is. It really is. That roster, when you look at it objectively and you look player for player down the line, they are absolutely top half in the East. But unless they can prove that last night and that Las Vegas game was not an outlier, then everyone has every right to believe that this team's going to be terrible. every right.
Yeah.
And Puzuela is not going to fix it. They need to figure themselves out a little bit. They need Josie 100%. Yeah. They need a creator in the midfield, because that's the other part about this. If you want to tactically break this down, TFC had a lot of the ball, but they could not get any penetration, so they need a guy. They absolutely need Puzuela. Puzuela watch. They need Puzuela.
When Shuffleberg was the spark of the attack when he came in, and you're having trouble. A TFC2 player, USL player with no contract with the first team, but because it's the CONCACAF Champions League, academy players and reserve players are allowed in your roster. And when he comes in and is your spark and your lane to break down the defense, and that's where it was coming from the left side of the midfield where Shuffleberg was, you're having a problem. But we'll see next week. But again, I don't think it's a performance that we can dissect in a way that's going to be coherent for Major League Soccer season, especially in the fall.
Well, yeah.
But I do believe that it's just an indication that, look, they're not necessarily focusing on the Champions League this year, and they cannot.
No, 100%.
They have to focus.
Yeah. Next week, let's be honest here, Kevin. Next week is a preseason game for TFC at this point. That's how they have to approach it. They're not going to advance in this tie now. Like, it's done. There is no CCL draw. And you know what? That might be okay.
It's okay, yeah. You still have the Canadian Championship that will distract you for a few months. Well, in a few months for about 2 weeks.
They're not good enough to win the CCL right now. They were good enough to win the CCL last year. They went all in on it. They're not right now. So if you're not good enough to win it as an MLS team, I'm going to be blunt for a second. You might as well punt on it. I don't think they were. I'm not suggesting that. But at this point in time, what they should do for the next week and what they should do next week in the game is treat it as an extension of the preseason, so that when they show up on March 2nd, when the majority of TFC fans are starting to pay attention, they need to be better than they were last night. Otherwise, this thing is going to get toxic quick. It's toxic on Twitter right now, but it is not toxic on the streets. It will get toxic on the streets if they do not fix this by March 2nd.
Yeah, we'll see. All right. The last result last night in the CONCACAF Champions League was Guastatoya at home versus Houston Dynamo, and Houston got the goal from DeMarcus Beasley, former American international, who scored the winning goal in the first leg for the Houston Dynamo. Good performance in Guatemala versus Guastatoya for the Houston Dynamo, and they carry the 1-0 lead for the second game next week. The games tonight, Duane: Atletico Pantoja versus the Red Bulls. So Red Bulls are traveling to the Caribbean CONCACAF region. We have Marathon versus Santos Laguna, Alianza versus Monterrey. We have Sporting Kansas City versus Toluca, and Herediano versus Atlanta United. The way the schedule is made, every game's at 8 except the Monterrey and Atlanta United game. Those two are at 10 p.m. So I'll probably watch the Red Bulls and then watch Atlanta. I don't know about you.
Yeah, no, I'm very interested to watch Atlanta, and I think everyone who follows this league, if you're going to pick one game tonight, you're going to want to watch Atlanta United. Look, we talked about them yesterday. We've talked about them a lot already. We had a full interview last Friday. They are driving the narrative in MLS right now. 3 years in, they are. And there's a lot of changes to that team. So to see whether they are this juggernaut that some people think they're going to be, or whether there's going to be some adjustment, I think that's the game to watch tonight. Below, I'll probably be watching all of them in various forms. So, yeah. Because hello, Kevin, my name is Duane.
You have a problem?
And I have a problem.
Welcome to Football Anonymous. That should be the name of our show. Football Anonymous. We have a problem.
No, we do. Yeah. You know, we do. I watched the Champions League proper as well today.
That was long. 2 games yesterday, no goals. Liverpool 0, Bayern Munich 0, and you had Lyon 0 and Barcelona 0. So 0-0. Yeah,
the Lyon. Look, I saw Lyon in the group stages play City because
they beat City the first game.
I paid the most attention to, and they were really good in this competition. I think clubs can cause upsets here and there. or be dominant in PSG's chances. And basically, this is what I've said so far. Of the 4 games that we've seen, PSG has been the most impressive result that's been out there. I thought the Bayern-Liverpool game, which is most people probably watched, was Bayern's was savvy, I'll call them. It sounds funny to call, to suggest that Liverpool doesn't have Champions League experience, because clearly they do. I mean, this is a club that lives on the Champions League success over the years and went to the final last year. But yesterday, Bayern just was smarter. And I've watched a lot of Bayern because since Davies has gone there, I listened to Bayern media. I watched Bayern games. I've watched a lot of them. They've been terrible this year. But yesterday, they just kind of found a way. That was an impressive result for them. And they've got to be the favorite in my mind going into that second leg. You could feel the tension in Anfield, too, in that second half, because that's a fan base that, their dads saw a lot of success, but they have not. You know what I mean? So they are stressed right now. And that is a team with a lot of expectation, a lot of weight on their shoulders. Although, honestly, if they bow out right now, it would suck for them, but it might be better for them in terms of winning the league.
Yeah,
in the long run. Just like we just talked about TFC a minute ago, Liverpool's kind of in the same boat. If they bow out, I think you then give a slight edge to them in the race down to win the title over City.
Yeah, that could be a good way not to get distracted by a side competition and to make sure that you're going for the league. They haven't won the Premier League since it existed, so it's been a long time since Liverpool won the league. And yes, I guess they have to prioritize the Premier League. We'll see. 2 games today in the UEFA Champions League. Atletico Madrid versus Juventus. Cristiano Ronaldo's return to Madrid, not to face his old team, but to face his old rival team.
Atleti's rocking in the corner right now. Ronaldo has been their nemesis. They might have won 2 Champions League titles if it wasn't for Ronaldo.
So they're like a little ball shaking. Not again. Not again. Not again. No free kicks. No free kicks. Don't give the ball to Ronaldo. Don't give the ball to Ronaldo. Yeah, that's Atleti fan in the corner when they think about Ronaldo and what he has done over the years. And the other interesting game today at 3 p.m., Schalke versus Man City. The question is, where will Weston McKennie play? Because he played at 7 different positions for Schalke since he joined the club. He's versatile. He's master of all trades. No, jacks of all trade, master of none. Which position should he play? If that's something. But that's a fascinating game too. Schalke Man City at 3 p.m.
Yeah, look, by any objective observation, City should be like a 10-1 favorite in this game. But you look at City's history in this competition, lost to Monaco a couple of years ago, lost to Liverpool last year. And you wonder, I mean, that's been their criticism over the years. People say, oh, yeah, sure, you've won a lot of domestic titles, and they have. I mean, no one can deny that the money has created an English powerhouse in England. They have been, in my opinion, the most successful domestic team in England over the last decade. I don't know if you can argue against that. Chelsea would be
the other one. I was going to say, well, yes, just in front of Chelsea.
It's a 1-2 argument, right?
Yes.
The two new money teams have been the most successful team in England over the past 10 years, but they have not demonstrated that same savvy in the Champions League. So that is the question that we have in about 3 hours, is whether they can do this. They should absolutely win this tie, and if they win this tie, then things get real. But yeah, if City were to blow this one against an out of form Schalke, there's going to be a lot of questions about. There's going to be a lot of stories written about their quote unquote spirit or their quote unquote intangibles, right? And so there's a lot of pressure on City today. So that's the one caveat I'll have on that, is that they need to prove it rather than do it. I mean, this is a team that has been in the semifinals before, but they beat the other new money team to get there, so which has the same narrative. So let's prepare for the PSG City final.
Sure, that's going to be a good final. Yeah,
it'll kill me. It will literally kill me. But
where's Duane? I don't know. I haven't heard from him since Man City's in the final. Someone heard from him? Can people check their ditches?
Hashtag pray for Duane.
Hashtag check your ditches. Is Duane in there? good. You got a show to do. Call me back. It's been 2 weeks. Anyways, we'll see if that happens in a few
I'll
months.
give you a preview of what the day before the Champions League final show would sound like. Duane, what do you think of the Champions League? That would kind of be what it was.
Like running around the house like Kevin McAllister.
And maybe on that note, we should say goodbye.
As always, you can follow Duane on social media at 24th Minute, myself at Kev Laramee. Thanks for all the new subscribers we do have on the video feed, on Twitter, on YouTube, Facebook. Thank you for your like, your subscriptions, your shares, your comments. If you would like to get the podcast version anywhere you get your podcast, you can, or go to sportspodcastingnetwork.com. Thanks for your patronage at patreon.com/sportspodcastingnetwork. $2 a month will give you access to the Two Solid Dudes Soccer podcast, which will be back tomorrow. Duane and I go deep into Canadian soccer and the Canadian Premier League, Canadian men's national team, women's national team, getting ready for the World Cup this summer. A lot of news, and there's going to be a big announcement tonight at 5:30 p.m. by Canadian Soccer Business, and Duane and I will talk about it tomorrow on the Two Solid Dudes Soccer podcast. But as always, until next time, I'm Kevin Laramee, and have a great soccer.
You can find the podcast version of all the shows we do on iTunes, Apple Podcast, Google Play Store, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and anywhere you get your podcast.